What's up? Coach Dan Blewett here. In today's pitching video, we're going to cover 3 common reasons that young players tend to struggle throwing strikes. So if you're a young pitcher and your strike throwing is kind of inconsistent, if you walk a lot of batters every time you go out, or if it's kind of like a great game one day and then you have kind of poor control the next, then this video is going to be for you. All right, so if you're new to my channel, I'm Coach Dan Blewett. I'm a former pro pitcher, former baseball academy owner, the author of 2 pitching books. All my resources are in the link description below. So if you want to check out more of what I have to offer, definitely stick around after you subscribe and check out the links in this video. So in today's, we're going to cover 3 common reasons young pitchers struggle to throw strikes. So the first one, let me go right into it, is too much extra movement in the delivery. So sure, we don't want to be robots and we don't need to be super slow and methodical, but with a lot of young pitchers, the more extra movement they have and the faster they have it, the faster they make that movement, the tougher it is for them to always get back to that consistent spot where their fingers are going to release the ball. We want to be in this tiny little window, and when there's lots of extraneous movement, it becomes very difficult for young athletes who don't have great body control in general to get back again to that tiny little arm slot window. So what I recommend for young pitchers is have a delivery that is athletic and semi-quick, but also not overly complicated. So when I teach footwork, it's a short step, the head's not moving that much, the leg kick can come up quickly, and it can go up high if they want to, but it shouldn't be too high, and it shouldn't be too fast, and it shouldn't be too much movement from the arms. Arms should tend to be around the center of the body, and they'll move gently with the legs and the rest of the body. But again, too much extra movement is always a problem for young pitchers, because again, it drags them into inconsistency, trying to get that consistent little release window for every single pitch. All right, the second reason a lot of young pitchers tend to struggle throwing strikes is because they don't have a good hip lead, they don't have good uphill shoulders. So what that means is when you have the slope of a downhill mound, which this mound is not heavily sloped, but it does have a slope, you have to actually go uphill with your shoulders and your hips to counteract that downhill mound. And that's when you're gonna land either level or slightly above level. And you see almost every big leaguer does this. When you land with low angled shoulders, and I talk about this a good amount on my YouTube channel here, when you have any downhill angle to your shoulders, you can't use your front side anymore. You essentially can't pull yourself up over top to get behind the baseball. So what happens when pitchers are inconsistent and kind of weak with the way they go down the mound with their hip is they have this slightly angled down shoulders, and then to produce power, their body now has to spin. Because my front side is already spent, I have to pull to get power from my core instead of crunching my chest towards my target, which makes me a lot more accurate. So what happens is pitchers tend to be here one time, here another time, and their arm slot gets very complicated. The little window in which they release each pitch tends to vary a lot more when they're inconsistent with the hip and the uphill shoulders aspect of going down the mound. The last aspect for today of pitchers who struggle to throw strikes is an inconsistent chest direction. So when I would catch bullpens, when I would catch my pitchers when we do a lesson together, I would always notice where their chest would move as they landed. So once their strike foot hits the ground and they start to rotate, I would always want to see the first movement was essentially the chest pushing towards their target, towards me. When I saw the first movement of a lot of extra rotation, I knew they were going to be more inconsistent, get around their breaking balls, their hand was going to fly out more to the side instead of moving more towards the plate. This is not this really dramatic thing, it's a very subtle thing that again, when you've caught and played catch with thousands of pitchers, you're just going to see this slight difference. So again, it's not like this to this, it's the difference between this and that. It's a very subtle difference, but all pitchers should be cued to essentially think about pushing their chest and their chin towards their target. They're going to rotate naturally anyway, so we don't have to coach over rotation. We just need to say, hey, when you land, think about taking the center of your chest and your chin a little bit more towards the catcher's mitt. That's going to get the rest of the body online rather than getting this extra rotation which tends to make the arm slot vary a lot more, which then in turn makes it more difficult to throw strikes. So if you're doing drills, a great thing to do with this is get a 2 to 3 or 4 pound weight in the glove hand, and when you're landing, pull that glove weight in. And of course, you're not really going to move to, you're just not going to move towards your body as much as your chest is going to move towards your glove arm. But that helps teach you to be compact instead of dragging everything out and around your body. All right. So again, I hope today's video helped. Throwing strikes is obviously a huge part of being a good pitcher. Even if you throw 100 miles per hour, if you can't consistently throw strikes, you're not going to make it in the big leagues. So you've got to learn to throw strikes when you're young, and it's got to be a skill that you hone over time. And just remember, pitchers are not robots. This is something I see often with a lot of parents. They make the mistake thinking that their kids just need better mechanics to throw more strikes, and that isn't really true. Mechanics are always better mechanics are of course always better, but just because your son or you have great repeatable mechanics doesn't mean you'll be a strike thrower. There are lots of mental components that I don't want you to discount that are part of being a good pitcher. You'll see pretty much at all levels of college and pro baseball, pitchers all have pretty good mechanics. That's how they throw so hard. If you throw in the mid 80s or above, you're one of the world's best throwers of objects, whether it's a baseball or anything else. You could pick up any ball and throw it really, really hard. So your mechanics are pretty darn good at that point. And you've got to remember the difference between a major leaguer who walks two batters per 9 innings and another major leaguer who walks 4.5 batters per 9 innings is probably not really mechanical. It's something mentally, it's their connection with their own mind and their body and the catcher's mitt. So it's a really complex thing, throwing strikes. So don't think it's only about mechanics, but obviously you should do everything in your power to improve your mechanics to make them more repeatable, because that's going to make other things a lot easier. All right. Thanks again for watching. Again, I'm Coach Dan Blewett. If you need more pitching help, definitely check out my books, my online pitching courses, and all the other resources in the description of this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.